Oh, thank you so much, Rosalind. And thank you also to Teddy, who's working behind the scenes to make this webinar flawless. And thank you most of all to all of you for making time out of your busy afternoons to join in this homecoming celebration. So I'm so excited to dive in today, but we got to start by giving love where love is due. So if you wouldn't mind sending a little emoji shout out in the chat to Rosalind and Teddy for bringing you this session, as well as all the incredible homecoming programming, that would be truly appreciated. So maybe you're a fan of the star eye emoji, maybe you're more into heart eyes, whatever you're feeling today, send that love over, just like Jennifer, and let Rosalind and her team know that their efforts are appreciated. Thank you so much to Paula, everyone who's bringing that in. Great vibes to start with. So a little background about your speakers today. So I got to tell you, I've had this incredibly lucky career where I've gotten a chance to work for all these organizations I was really excited about. But the one place that probably changed my career more than any other was getting to work at LinkedIn. And that's because before I came to LinkedIn, I thought I knew everything there was to know about hiring. I thought it was all about having a great resume, applying for jobs online, and then letting the chips fall where they may. And what I only discovered after working inside LinkedIn is the process is totally different. There's a whole different system in place that I didn't even know existed. And I felt like those secrets were too juicy to keep inside LinkedIn. So I've been on a mission for the last decade to share those with awesome alumni like yourselves all around the world. And most importantly, I want you to leverage those insights to land the jobs that you're truly passionate about. So I want to start with 3 core principles. And the first is just to acknowledge the fact that here we are in 2022. And so if you have this vision of hiring, like I had back when I first started, which is, hey, you find those job descriptions, maybe it's online, maybe it's in a newspaper even, you apply for jobs. It turns out everything has changed because unlike their brethren of the past, recruiters who might have posted an article in the local newspaper or posted a job posting and then hope for the best, recruiters now in 2022 have the semi-miraculous tool called LinkedIn, which means they can now search through the resumes of 800 million professionals around the world with just a couple of clicks of their keyboard. And so if recruiters have all moved over to LinkedIn, and sure enough, pretty much every company is using LinkedIn and using LinkedIn really aggressively to find talent, the challenge is that we as job seekers haven't always transformed as quickly. Like I was saying, I still have this attitude of, hey, I'm going to apply online, I'm going to drop my resume and just hope for the best. And as you can see, these are the kinds of results I got, pretty much crickets. Whereas if you can build a great LinkedIn profile, if you can make yourself visible to millions of recruiters around the world, you can absolutely change the tables. Instead of begging for an interview or begging for an opportunity, you can have recruiters coming to you, begging you to consider their firms. And I know which side of the equation I'd rather be on. And that's where I want you to be at the end of today's session. So we're going to be talking all about the kinds of things recruiters do to search for talent and what you can do to build your profile around those insights. And to make the most of today's session, all I ask is for 3 things in return. Number 1, I got to be honest with you. Before I got into the tech world, I was a kindergarten teacher. And so old habits die hard. And I'm going to be sending lots of pop quizzes your way. So I'd love for you to answer those in the chat. But especially, I would love for you to go above and beyond and volunteer for live demos. Ask your own questions. And if you do, to sweeten the deal, I will give you a free copy of my brand new LinkedIn book. So you could buy it on Amazon or somewhere else for $20, or you can get it free today just for volunteering for any part of our session. So with that incentive in place, let's start with the first pop quiz. Imagine now that you're a recruiter at any firm you're really excited about. And before the session, Roz and I were looking at the most popular employers for Manitoba alumni. And they were places like Manitoba Hydro, Canada Life, RBC, TD, Scotiabank. If you were a recruiter at any of those organizations, what do you think is the first thing you would search for if you were on LinkedIn? A, show me someone with a specific degree, a BA in business or an MBA. Show me someone who went to a certain school, Manitoba or Toronto, or show me someone who can do a specific function. You can be an accountant, an analyst, an architect. What do you all think? So Sobia says C, Larson says C, Allison says C, Hannah says C, Mohammed says C. So many C's coming in. Mohammed, I would love to know, why did you say C? If you wouldn't mind unmuting for 1 second, what was behind your thought process? And feel free to unmute your line there, Mohammed. Okay, maybe we're not able to get, there we go. Hey, Mohammed.
I believe that experience is something all employers try to look for, and like getting a degree is more of your like knowledge skill. It shows more of your knowledge skill, not really what how much practice you have in the industry, and that's what employers value more, is the experience. Yep.
Exactly, Mohammed. You nailed it. I can see that the Manitoba community is off to a great start here, because exactly like Mohammed said, a degree is great, Manitoba is great, but what's even better is specific experience. And so C is absolutely the right answer. You're all correct. And to prove it to you, let's look at the most important screen in the hiring process that almost nobody knows exists. And you're sure enough, this is LinkedIn. So you might say, oh, I know all about LinkedIn, Jeremy. But this is not the free LinkedIn that we use all the time. Instead, this is a special $10,000 per year per seat tool that's only available to recruiters. And even at that steep price, they're happy to pay it, because again, LinkedIn gives them access to all of the world's talent all in one place. So let's figure out how this tool works. Exactly like you all intuited, it's all about function. Yeah, a generic Manitoba grad is amazing. Someone who has an awesome degree is amazing. What's even better is someone who can do my specific job. And so if your LinkedIn profile is generic and it says, I went to Manitoba, I got this degree, but doesn't tell recruiters what you can do for them, you're missing out to competitors who know exactly where they belong and are signaling that right to recruiters on LinkedIn. And so the first thing that I would love to do is I would love to do a quick demo to help you find the perfect career path. So maybe you're at a career crossroads. Maybe you went down one road after Manitoba and you're ready for a change. What I would love for you to do right now is to volunteer to have your path uncovered and explored right now, right here. And all you've got to do to volunteer is raise your hand on Zoom or put in these two magic words right into the chat, I'm in. And again, anyone who volunteers gets a chance to get a free book. So I see that Jed was first. Jed, feel free to unmute your line. I'm going to be sending you a copy of this book right after today's session. Welcome, Jed.
Sweet. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad.
Jed, tell us when you graduated from Manitoba and what you studied.
So I'm actually taking some classes through Manitoba still.
Oh,
so I
cool.
didn't graduate yet. Yeah, so I'm actually also working right now at Fargo, North Dakota.
Really?
North Dakota State
Interesting.
University. So yeah.
Very cool. And so tell us a little bit about what you're thinking about career-wise. Like, what have you done already, or what do you want to do next?
Hoping to go to either teach
Ooh.
agronomy at a university. So I don't necessarily know if my profile is the one you're looking for, or if
Oh, no, that's
somebody
perfect.
else's.
Because here's the thing. My wife actually got a PhD with the intention of becoming a professor. And she had sort of like this big vision of how amazing it would be. But what she discovered along the way, it just wasn't a good fit for her and her particular gifts and superpowers. So what I would love to do with you, Jed, is to help you investigate that path before you dive too deep into it. How does that sound?
Sure, sounds good.
Yeah, and so this is something that I think every Manitoba alum owes it to themselves to invest in, because you really want to make sure that if you're going to go deep into a new career field, that it's the right one for you. So Jed, if you want to learn from agronomy professors, who would you want to reach out to? Who would be the easiest person to strike up a conversation with?
Someone probably in the field right now.
Exactly. So they're already doing the job that you want to do next. And of course, the beauty of being a Manitoba student or Manitoba grad in some people's cases is that you can reach out to those folks and they'll be happy to chat with you. So check this out. All I do is come over to LinkedIn. I look up the University of Manitoba. I come to the school's page. And then in particular, I click on the alumni tab, which is the actual product that I worked on when I was at LinkedIn. So I might be a little bit biased here, but I think it's really important because it gives you access to over 100,000 alumni based on what they do today and where they're living. So Jed, what do you say that we look up some agronomy profs who are from the University of Manitoba?
Sounds great.
Okay, so let's look up agronomy professor, see what we get here. We run our search. And sure enough, unsurprisingly, there are almost 1,000 people. And look where they are. Obviously UM, but also Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, Toronto, UBC. Are any of these universities of particular interest to you?
Yeah, probably the Saskatchewan one.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so now we've got our perfect folks, right? Think about what we just did, Jed. We went from 800 million people on LinkedIn to 100,000 from University of Manitoba to just 20 at the exact right place doing the exact right thing. So here we are, professor at University of Saskatchewan, degree in agriculture and plant sciences, absolutely our perfect guy. So if you want to learn from Tom over at USask, how do you strike up a conversation with him, Jed?
Well, that'd be the message function.
Yeah. So send him a message. Love it. And by the way, if there are any folks out there who have answers to my questions, don't leave your fellow Manitoba student or alum hanging. Give Jed some ideas in the chat. But for now, Jed, what are you going to say to Tom? How are we going to get his attention and get him into a conversation?
Well, I mean, you're an alum, so you could say, hey, I noticed we both graduated from Manitoba.
There we go. Love that. And why did you start with that?
That's about the only thing I know about him right now.
That's right. That's right. Let me ask you this question, Jed, just to sort of peel back the layers of the onion. When you were a kid, Jed, what did your parents tell you about talking to strangers?
Right. You shouldn't do it.
Don't do it, right? And I'm sure Tom's parents told him the exact same thing. And so now here Tom is 50 years later, and he's like, whoa, who's this stranger Jed who's reaching out? Except right there in that first sentence, you've lowered that stranger danger force field by pointing out that you're not a stranger, you're a member of the same team. So already you're in his good graces. Now, where do you go next, Jed?
I don't know, actually.
Yes. Let's see if any of your classmates or fellow alums have any ideas. What should Jed put into this message to really get Tom excited to chat with him? And you can either unmute and shout it out, you can put it into the chat, but don't leave Jed hanging. He needs your support. Let's see if folks have any ideas. And Rosalind, feel free to shout anything out too, because I know you've done this a million times. Mohammed says, try to show that we have a similar interest in being a professor in agronomy. Evan agrees. So what if we said, as someone who's considering going into academia with a focus on agronomy, I'd love to pick your brain. Exclamation mark. How does that sound, Jed?
It sounds very, not, you're not intrusive at all. Sounds really nice.
Because and here's the interesting thing. I think a lot of times we have this idea that we have to give an elevator pitch, right? Let me tell you why I'm so awesome. Kind of beat your own chest a little bit. But Jed, do you like when people try to sell themselves to you?
It's a bit pushy.
Yeah, a little pushy, right? Whereas if you give Tom a chance to feel awesome and Tom a chance to share his story, that's way more attractive, right?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Everyone's favorite topic of conversation is themselves. So give Tom the microphone. Okay, and then I noticed that a lot of messages on LinkedIn end with, hey, would love to connect, which to me is kind of a dead end because where do you go from there? So instead of having that dead end, Jed, what could you ask for from Tom that would be a little more specific?
Maybe do you think we could set up a Zoom meeting or something? I could ask you some of my questions.
Yeah. But I know you must be incredibly busy, but any chance you have even 10 minutes for a quick Zoom chat? How does that sound? So far,
yeah,
so good,
I mean, that's gonna lead you to a bit more places.
Yeah, because now he's like, okay, this guy shares something really important in common with me. He wants to learn from me, which of course is very appealing. And he's not asking for that much time. Even a busy professor can say yes to that. So I love that approach so much, Jed, that I'm putting it in the chat for everyone to benefit from. But Jed, before I let you go, one last question. What are you going to ask Tom in these 10 minutes to figure out if his path is the right one for you?
How he got the job he got and why he did it. What are his values as far as that goes? Work-life balance or something.
Yeah, I love that. And what are you listening for when he's telling you about his job, what it's like, what he loves about it?
Oh,
What
I'm
are you
drawing a
trying to
blank on that one.
Okay. Well, think about this. What do you love to do most, Jed? Like, what gets you super excited when you think about, oh, these are my gifts, my superpowers. I would love to be using those.
Probably teaching my kids.
Yeah,
Love hanging out with
teaching,
my
right?
family. Yeah.
Imparting ideas, sharing knowledge. Okay. So now imagine two scenarios. So you're asking Tom what he does all day as a professor. Imagine scenario one. He says, I teach about 3 or 4 sections a semester, and I have these large classrooms with 100 students, sometimes seminars with like 10 or 20. And it's amazing because I can see these young minds just like light up as they start to see the future unfold. And I just feel like I'm passing the torch to the next generation because I'm literally helping them build out an amazing foundation. When he tells you that, Jed, how does that feel to you?
Yeah. That feels a lot better.
It's like ding, ding, ding. We have a winner, right? The stuff that you love inside has this perfect match out there in the world. That's what you want in your career, right, Jed?
Right. Yeah. Like, give me your job right now.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Like, hey, Tom, when are you going to retire? Or imagine scenario two, which is Tom says, you know what? Like, the thing that I hate the most about being a prof is that I have to teach a couple of courses, but I kind of just have the TAs do most of it. What I really love is research, and that's what's really rewarded. And I'm spending most of my time in the library, looking at data, gathering data. That's what I love about this job. How does that feel to you, Jed?
You know, if I was a little more into research, yeah, that'd be nice.
If you were a little more into research, but are you into research, Jed?
Not as much as teaching.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to ask these questions, right? Because what if you spend all this time breaking into academia and then you find out that it's not a good fit for what you love doing? That would be such a disservice to your future and to the life that you want to build, right?
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so what I'm going to charge you and all of your classmates with doing, both current Manitoba students and former ones, is always say, hey, life is too short to do a job that's just okay, that's mediocre, that's not a good fit, when there's a much better job out there, if only I do my homework. So thank you for demonstrating that, Jed. For that, you get both my book and my undying gratitude. You rocked it. All right, everyone, please
Thanks,
send a
mate.
lot of love Jed's way in the chat, because Jed got us off to an amazing start, frankly. Like, that is Manitoba power right there. Reaching out to alums, learning from alums, landing a job that you really love doing. Okay, so now, if you've got any questions about anything we just covered, obviously you can feel free to ask at any point. You can put your hand up, you can just unmute, you can ask it in the chat. Anything is fair game. And again, anyone who asks a question also gets a copy of the book. So I'll just pause for one moment here. And if folks feel good about this process, then that's awesome. I will dig into the next step, which is all about what's happening behind the scenes as recruiters are doing their searches. So imagine there is a recruiter at the University of Saskatchewan who is searching for amazing agronomy folks. When they run their search, which section of LinkedIn's algorithm do you think drives the biggest portion of the results? Is it A, your work experience, B, your recommendations, or C, your headline, that little piece of text that sits below your name? So I see Shala saying A, Rick agrees, Kevin agrees, Jing comes in with C, and Afzal also says C, Evan's in the middle with B, Mary's at C, Tanya's at C, Hannah says C with a question mark, and I agree, it is kind of a mystery, Hannah. But it turns out, when you dig into that black box, the answer is indeed C. And again, let me prove it to you. So here's a sample search on LinkedIn Recruiter where the magic happens. And this particular recruiter is looking for a project manager in Chicago with these skills. And lo and behold, the curious pattern emerges, which is all the winners of the LinkedIn lottery, aka the people who the recruiter is going to reach out to with an interview offer, all have that exact job title right there in the same section: headline, headline, headline. And that is not an accident or a coincidence. That is by design, because LinkedIn's engineers know that people love to game their profiles, jam all of this verbiage right into their experience section or their about section. And the one place you can't game is your headline, because it's limited to only 160 characters. And therefore, it's the most authentic signal of who you really are. And that's why it gets more weight in the algorithm. So that's our first insight. What I want to do now is build on that insight and talk about even more keywords. So what lucky Manitoba student or alum would like a free profile makeover right now, directly from yours truly, a LinkedIn insider? All you have to do is be the first to raise your hand, and that opportunity is yours. And I have to say that Rick would be a very good contestant on Jeopardy because he was dinging in right away. So Rick, the floor is yours. Feel free to unmute.
Hello.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing awesome, especially now that you volunteered. I'm so excited about this. Rick, tell us a little bit about yourself. When did you go to Manitoba? What did you study? What have you been up to since then?
Yeah, so I'm a mathematician. I got a bachelor's degree in math. When was that? 1993.
Cool.
Yeah, so I was in academia for a bit. Ended up moving first kind of into government research, then industry. Been at a startup for a while that I was a co-founder of.
Whoa.
Now looking to, that job has gotten a little less interesting, looking for other opportunities.
Awesome. And so when you think about the recruiters out there in the world who are searching for specific talent today, what is the job title that you would like to be found for, Rick?
That's a little like the fit between me and kind of the categories that there are a lot of jobs in isn't perfect. I mean, I think of myself as an applied mathematician, but that's not quite specific enough.
Okay.
Data science is very hot these days. So a lot of the job ads I've been looking at are for a data scientist. That's not quite perfect, but in terms of a match, but that's probably is the best fit, balancing fit to what I would like to do, and there being lots of interest among employers.
Right, because you're really trying to look for that Venn diagram overlap, to use another mathematical concept, right? Where it's like, here are your skills and your expertise, and then here's the union with the labor market and the employer opportunities out there. And if there's a really strong overlap, that's tons of opportunity for you. Mm-hmm. So you can obviously build a profile around multiple job titles, but for the purposes of today's session, let's just focus on data science, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's start out by testing out this hypothesis that I've sort of shared with you, which is the headline is key. So imagine you're a recruiter and you search for a data scientist. Tell me now, of these top matches, Keto, Samson, Eva, what do they all have in common, Rick?
Yeah, they have data scientist in their headline.
Exactly. And so the beautiful thing about LinkedIn's algorithm is you don't have to waste a lot of sleepless nights overthinking it or assuming that it's super sophisticated. It's basic pattern matching in your most important places, in this case, your headline. So with that in mind, do you mind if I pull up your profile, Rick? Not to criticize it, but to give it some love.
Yeah, don't mind at all.
Okay, and everyone, please root Rick on, because it takes a lot of guts to put yourself out there, even in front of your former classmates. And so I appreciate Rick's bravery. Okay, so we're going to pull up Rick's profile. So let's see here. And there you are right away. It's creepy sometimes how LinkedIn just knows who you're looking for. I don't know how they do that. But there's Rick's profile. So given what we just talked about, Rick, in terms of that pattern that we were investigating together, what would you immediately want to change on your profile to get yourself onto the radar screens of recruiters?
Yes, I would change at least where I have my job title, Applied Scientist 5, change that to just data scientist.
Great. And I don't know if you're still with your startup or if you're employed anywhere else, but would it be concerning to any employer or prospective employer if you had data scientists here? Would that cause any issues?
No.
Okay, that's awesome, because I know there are probably a lot of folks out there who are totally free agents, in which case go for it. Say data scientist, aspiring data scientist, whatever you want to call yourself. But there are some folks who are like, I'm currently employed, and if my boss sees that, we're going to have a big chat. So I'm just going to mention one other sneaky way you can get that in there is if you come over to LinkedIn, you specifically come over to your profile. At the very top of your profile, Rick, you'll see the section called Open to Work. And so if you don't want to broadcast this broadly, you can come to Open to Work and say, hey, here's my sneaky bat signal just to the world of recruiters, saying these are the jobs I want, these are the places I want to live. And oh, by the way, I don't want it going to everyone, but only recruiters, and specifically only recruiters who don't work in my current company, so I don't have to worry about the HR team ratting me out to my boss. Okay? So just a little end around for the folks who need it. Okay, so that's the first.
Got that enabled.
Oh, beautiful. So you're already off to the races then. Now let's go back to our data scientist search 1 second here. And what I happened to notice when we ran this people search is there are a lot of data scientists on LinkedIn today, right? Over 500,000. So what do you think separates the folks who just have it in their headline from the ones who are a really good fit? Any guesses, Rick, looking at this LinkedIn recruiter screen, what else recruiters filter for?
So it's looks like it shows, their current role and their past roles. So yeah, having that, having data scientist in the heading of each of their past experiences or current and past experiences.
Yeah, so if folks out there haven't even done that basic step of getting their basic roles into LinkedIn, exactly to Rick's point, having those exact job titles on LinkedIn are a huge part of the algorithm. But then there's also this piece around skills. And of course, this is where like a lot of top candidates walk the talk, because anyone can call themselves a data scientist, but can you actually do R or SQL or Python? Can you build a machine learning model? So if you had to guess, Rick, what do you think are some of the most in-demand skills when it comes to data science?
Machine learning.
Machine learning, ML, absolutely.
Yeah, Python in terms of programming languages for sure.
Yeah.
Well, deep learning, I guess it's a subset of machine learning, but a very popular subset right now.
Yeah, totally. And then what if I said, to be honest, even working in Silicon Valley, I have no idea what keywords are most important, but there's a way to go right to the source of truth. Because somewhere on LinkedIn, every single day, recruiters are handing you these keywords on a silver platter. Any ideas where that might be, Rick?
No.
Let's see if the hive mind of Manitoba has any ideas. Go to the chat right now if you think you know where recruiters give you the skills they want every single day right on LinkedIn. And I think Mary's got it nailed, which is those infamous job postings. Afzal's got it as well. And I have to admit, as a hiring manager at Khan Academy, I am guilty of just terrible job postings, posts that have probably 5,000 words and 100 different bullets. But if you look deep within these job descriptions, sure enough, there are all the things we just talked about: SQL, A/B tests, business strategy. And so, Rick, if I could gift you the superpower of X-ray vision, so you could see through all of my fluff just to the keywords that matter most, would you be interested?
Yep.
Okay, consider that gift granted then. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to another site, which is also free, like everything I'm showing you today. And I saw there's some questions, by the way, about LinkedIn Premium, so we'll come back to that in a second. But for now, I want everyone to check out jobscan.co. And the reason I love JobScan so much is it basically simulates the LinkedIn algorithm even before you touch your profile. So here's what I'm going to do, and this is going to feel really familiar to you, Rick, given your interest. At first, I'm going to feed it all of the keywords from your existing profile, basically your repository of existing skills. And then I'm going to compare that side by side with all the keywords straight out of the job descriptions. And JobScan will strip away all that fluff and just focus on, is there a match with the things that matter? How does that sound?
Cool.
Okay, so let's do it. Now here is Rick's moment of truth, ladies and gentlemen. The little digital drum roll in the chat. And we'll see what the survey says, Family Feud style. Any predictions in terms of the match rate, Rick? Okay, it's a little low, but that's okay. And this is the big challenge with any kind of career change, right? If you want to go from being an applied mathematician or startup founder to a data scientist, there's always a little translation that has to happen. So look what it's telling you. Based on that search, it looks like those jobs are looking for experience with analytics, with business strategy, with data science, with SQL queries, with engineering. And those things are not popping up right away on your profile. But my challenge to you, Rick, is have you done any of these things in a past role, even if you didn't use that language?
Yeah, no, I've done data science. I've done SQL queries.
Okay, so let's talk about how do we incorporate that then. So back to your profile, is there some way, Rick, that you could write a resume bullet or a little description about how you've done data science, how you've run SQL in the past?
Yeah. Let's see.
And sorry to draw this out, but everyone's going to have a chance to do this on their own profiles in just 2 minutes. So I want Rick to really sort of show folks how it's done. So what if we said something like leverage data science, best practices, including SQL queries, and then you finish the sentence. Like, tell me what you did with that.
To extract information of value to clients.
Ah, and then how much did those clients pay you out of curiosity? Just ballpark.
Usually a few $100K.
Yeah, whoa, I love that. Generating 200K in new revenue. And look at that. This is the archetype of the perfect bullet point, Rick. For the algorithm, your first audience, it's got all the keywords that matter most, right? SQL, data science, all the stuff that we just saw. And then for the human recruiter who ultimately has to pick you out of that field, you're going to knock their socks off, right? They're going to say, if Rick could generate $200,000 for a startup, imagine what he could do for my firm. And if you can do that again and again, Rick, you are going to be golden in this field, okay?
Sounds great.
But Rick, before I let you off the hook, I've got one last homework assignment. And I know you thought you were well past that. You were 30 years past that. But this may be the most important homework you ever do, with my apologies to your Manitoba professors. Because if you can find ways to incorporate all of these keywords into your profile, instead of being off the radar, you're going to be smack dab in the middle of it. Do you accept my challenge, Rick?
Sure.
Okay. So your final homework assignment just may be the most important. And everyone, please send Rick a ton of love in the chat, because he has absolutely crushed this. And this was essential. Thank you so much, Rick.
You're welcome.
Okay. So now it is time for you to have a chance to work on this yourselves. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a chance to pair up with Teddy's help, where you're going to have another partner, another Manitoba alum. And what I want you to do is I want you to do like a little bit of the analysis that we just did on Rick's profile, but on each other. So first of all, get clear focus on what your partner really wants to do. Is it data science or teaching or something else? And then, do they actually have some relevant skills? If so, can they get those into their about section, their experience section, their skill section? And can they get their exact job title in their headline? So I'm going to share this in the chat so you have all this information to work with. But for now, Teddy, I would love your help pairing up our amazing alumni, and then spend about 5 minutes giving feedback to your partner on how their profile is doing against these criteria. All right, and we're back. Thank you all for doing that. I know that was not enough time. Rosalind and I were just talking about the fact that there's never enough time, because breakout rooms are always the best part of any Zoom session. But just in the interest of staying punctual, I wanted to bring you all back. And I wanted to start with a little chance to reflect on what we just did. So if anyone wanted to brag on one of their fellow alums, feel free to raise your hand or chat in if there was someone whose profile you really admired. Maybe they were doing a great job with their headline or their bullets or something else on their profile that you were especially impressed with. So I'll just pause for one moment if folks want to give any shout outs to their fellow alums. I'd be curious to hear from Adele, from Arshani, from Betsy, from Jed, from Donna, from Susan. If there was anything that really knocked your socks off, please don't hesitate to brag. Okay, I think people are probably just grumpy that we pulled them out of those rooms. So I'll keep moving along. But I want to remind you all, if you've got questions at any point, and you're like, hey, Jeremy, what should I be doing on this on LinkedIn or that on LinkedIn? Feel free to ask at any point, because you can also get a free copy of the book just for asking. And let's go to a question from David. David, what's on your mind?
Hi, Jeremy. I have a question. You were talking about the headlines on there. Now, is the headline what's under your name, or is the headline your actual job title, your first job title?
Yeah, great question. So it's this little piece of text that you can edit however you see fit, and it always appears under your name. I kind of call it part of the LinkedIn Holy Trinity, because everywhere you go on the site, as you can see over here, it's always your picture, your name, and your headline. And so that's the most important piece. Okay, David?
Got it. Great. Thank you so much.
Great question. And then Tanya says, what's the best way to merge your LinkedIn accounts? So for example, maybe you created one as a student back when you were in Manitoba, then you created a separate one as a professional. Can you merge them so you're not sort of scattering your efforts across multiple profiles? Absolutely. So this is actually one of the most popular things that people ask for on LinkedIn's help desk, where you can merge or close duplicate accounts just by requesting it through this process. Basically, it's verifying I am the owner of both accounts. So click that link, Tanya, and you'll be off to the races. Let's take a couple other questions that came in earlier. Mohammed said, what if you have little to no work experience? Great question, Mohammed. So I want to be really clear about this. Even if you're a student or a recent grad, anything you've done up to this point in your career all counts. That includes classes, clubs, even volunteer experience. Because the beautiful thing about LinkedIn is its algorithm scans your whole profile, not just your work. So if you learned SQL in a class, or you did a marketing project for a nonprofit locally, please be sure to list it because it all counts, Mohammed. Great question. Afzal, what's your question?
Hey, Jeremy. My question is regarding the headline or the title.
Yeah.
Is it wise to use what I'm doing right now, or it's better like what I'm aspiring to or what I'm looking for in the title? And that will be a better way to reach out to the HR or when someone is searching for my profile.
Such a good question. In your case, Afzal, what job do you have today and what job do you want to have next?
I'm working as a manufacturing engineer right now, process improvement. So definitely I would like to stay in this track and be a process improvement engineer or continuous process improvement track in the manufacturing field.
Got it. So basically, you want to stay inside that industry. Just to be clear, do you want a different job title in the future or you want to stay in that same job title?
Maybe a different title.
Okay, so this is a tricky thing. You will find if you have your current job listed in your headline that it absolutely does get recruiters reaching out to you. Unfortunately, it gets recruiters reaching out about what you've done in the past, not what you want to do in the future. And so there's this feeling of being typecast where you're like, you know, I've always been an accountant, but what I really want to be is a marketer, and people only reach out about accounting opportunities. Well, the reason is that recruiters don't have ESP. They can't see deep into your soul. All they know is what they see here. So to get out of that typecasting situation, what you must do, Afzal, is you must signal in your headline where you're headed next. So aspiring process improvement engineer, seeking process improvement engineering opportunities, whatever you might want to include, that lets folks know, in the words of the great one, that you're not just skating where the puck is today, you're skating where the puck is going next. Okay, Afzal?
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy.
Great question. Okay, Achilles says, how do we handle different work opportunities that need very different job titles? Okay, Achilles, if you wouldn't mind unmuting your line for 1 second, I'm curious what those different job titles are.
Jeremy, hi.
Hey.
In my case, there are times where I'm applying for a operations-related job, but because I also have a client service market research background that is more into the data insights development, then I need to sort of look at that differently. The actual job postings are completely different.
Yeah, totally.
So I would suspect, just based on what you just said before, you probably have to focus a bit on a certain amount of time on one area, I guess, right?
Yeah, it is yeah.
Instead of creating two profiles in LinkedIn and so on.
Right. It is the biggest sort of problem on LinkedIn is that you're limited to just this one profile versus with a resume, you can have multiple versions. Let me show you a way around it though, Achilles. What I might do is when I run job scan in your case, instead of just pasting in job descriptions from one industry, I might paste them in from both. And then what JobScan will automatically do for you is it'll find that Venn diagram overlap. What are the skills that are relevant for both? And that way, once you identify, hey, I actually have to have analytical skills or interpersonal skills, you can really lead with those and get the best of both worlds. Okay, Achilles?
Oh, okay. So the algorithm will still take into account the significance of the of the work experience, even though the title may be focused on one area. Okay.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right, because again,
Okay,
the
good.
underlying skills they filter for will still be
Yeah.
there.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, I know we're running out of time. I want to be respectful of all the other programming today. So let me move on to our last section, and then I'm happy to stay online and answer any lingering questions. So we've reached our final segment, which is in some ways the most important one, because at the end of the day, if you want that recruiter to pick you for their company, what is it going to take? Is it going to take, being someone who's openly raising their hand saying, hey, hire me, hire me? Is it going to be plugged into that company so you know someone on the inside? Or is it going to be that candidate who's following the company on LinkedIn? Like, which of these three scenarios is going to give you the best chance of having the recruiter selecting you? So Afzal says A, Evan says B, Rick says C. We have a clean sweep. Jignesh says B, Kevin says B. Okay, we're all over the place, but it turns out that you're all correct. And let me prove it to you one last time. So here's the one piece of the recruiter screen that we haven't looked at together yet, which is, even when you apply all these filters, you still have thousands of great candidates. So to break that tie, what recruiters will do is they will apply these 3 additional filters to really find people who are worthy of those in-mails. And so I don't need a final volunteer, but I would love for you to chat into the chat right now the name of a job and a company that you're excited about. So investment banker at RBC, agronomy professor at University of Saskatchewan, data scientist at Lululemon, whatever it might be, come to the chat and I'm going to show you how to apply these hacks in your benefit for that specific role. So Jignesh, Arshani, David, Mimi, don't leave me hanging. Give me a specific job, a specific company that you might be excited about. By the way, if you're the person that I pick, you will get that free book. And this is our last chance for the day. There we go. Mary says archivist, federal government. Achilles says Amdocs, program manager. So let's focus on these. Let's start with Mary, and we can do a little bit of Achilles as well. So in Mary's case, if she want to be found by the federal government for archivist roles, the first thing is she's got to let them know that she's in the game. Otherwise, they might just pass over her in the interest of someone who's a little bit more obvious. So what Mary must do, and we talked about this before, is she must come to her profile and again, come to Open to Work and plug in the specific things she wants to be known for. Archivist in Toronto or in Winnipeg, with a focus on these kinds of roles and this kind of timeline. And again, Mary, you don't have to share it with everyone, but just share it with recruiters so folks can see that. And then back here on this really critical screen, when a filter says only show me archivist candidates who are open to new opportunities, Mary's going to be at the top of that list. So that's step 1. Number 2, Achilles says, I want to be found for program manager roles, specifically at Amdocs. Well, guess what? If I'm a recruiter at Amdocs, all things being equal, I'd rather talk to people who know people on the inside versus total strangers. It's just easier for me to reach out. It's easier for me to ask for a reference. So how can Achilles make sure that he gets filtered in versus filtered out? Well, he wants to make sure that he gets credit for all the people that he already knows. So check this out, Achilles. If you come over to LinkedIn and you come to My Network, what you're going to find on the left-hand side is this little section that's hidden away, and it will allow you to import your address books. So you can import your Gmail or even your old school AOL or Yahoo accounts. And all those people that you've met over the course of your career, Achilles, will automatically be plugged into your network. And if some of those folks know people at Amdocs or work at Amdocs, you will now get credit for it right here on this essential screen. So that's hack number 2. And then third and finally, Jignesh says, I want to be a senior scientist at AstraZeneca, working on the front lines of pharmaceutical research. Well, if I'm a recruiter at AstraZeneca, I don't want to waste time talking to someone who only wants to work at Pfizer or Moderna. I want someone who's interested in my company. And the surest way that Jignesh can signal that is by coming to LinkedIn, typing in the name of the company he's excited about. And then once he finds it, all he has to do is click one simple button, which is this little follow button. And by doing that, Jignesh has ensured that he's filtered in right here versus filtered out. So again, super simple stuff that could make a massive difference for your careers. So please be sure to turn and open work, import your address books, and follow all the companies you're excited about. Okay, we've come to the end of today's session. But before we close up, I want to give a quick recap of what we've covered, as well as some bonus goodies, and then I want to answer any lingering questions. So if there's anything on your mind, like, Jeremy, should I buy LinkedIn Premium? Jeremy, what do I have to post on LinkedIn? It's all fair game. All you've got to do is chat it in or raise your hand right now. And as you do that, a quick reminder, when it comes to building your profile on LinkedIn, there are only 3 steps that matter most. Number 1, you have to start with focus. Don't just go willy-nilly off into the wild. Instead, talk to alumni from Manitoba who are doing the jobs you're excited about and learn if it's a good fit for you. And then once you've confirmed that it's a good hit, don't keep it locked away in your mind. Get it onto your profile in the form of keywords. Your dream job title right there in your headline, all of your skills down below. And then finally, just because you appear on the radar doesn't mean that recruiters are going to pick you. So make it real easy for them to select you by making it clear that you're in the game, that you're plugged into their company, and that you're excited about their firm. And to get you started on your way, I would love to connect with any alum, any student from today's session using the link in the chat. But please, if you want a free book, send me a personalized connection request that reminds me about that, because I can get a little forgetful. But I'm happy to send you that book if you just remind me. Number 2, if you want your own profile review straight from a LinkedIn Insider, there's an opportunity to do that, and that's in the chat. And then finally, if you want free access to our LinkedIn Masterclass, I can also hook you up with that. Just remind me when you reach out on LinkedIn. Okay, enough with the goodies. Let's answer any questions that are on your mind. So I see a question from Evan, and Evan says, how best to position an employment gap in a LinkedIn profile so it doesn't turn away recruiters? Oh, Evan, this is such a classic question. I'm so glad you raised it. So one of the things that I'm so proud of LinkedIn recently is that they know people have all these employment gaps for lots of reasons. Maybe they were taking care of their newborn. Maybe they were taking care of their sick relative. Lots of things they might be doing. If you want to do that in a way that's not just like, hey, random gap, you can now come to your experience section, click the plus button, and you will see add career break. And now you have this really nice way to say, hey, it was a gap year, or it was bereavement, or it was taking care of my kids. And so that way, it really normalizes, hey, this is a part of everyone's life. Everyone's career is a little bit of a roller coaster, and so is mine. And that way you can give it really nice treatment on your profile. Great question, Evan. Okay, let's go to Achilles' question. Is it true that LinkedIn Premium brings your profile faster to the recruiter, like the top of that list we were looking at? Achilles, if you don't mind unmuting for 1 second, I just want to ask you 2 questions. So
Hi,
Achilles,
Jeremy. Yeah.
back on this screen, which is that sort of ultimate screen where the magic happens, did you see anywhere where a recruiter could filter for LinkedIn Premium?
No, I didn't say anything. I can't say anything here.
Yeah. And then number 2, if you were a recruiter, Achilles, would you want to be able to filter for candidates with LinkedIn Premium?
Not necessarily, because you may not have all the other necessities. If you're just paying to get to the top and you don't have what's required, then yeah, it wouldn't help.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right? Because
okay.
like, you know, if you're a recruiter,
Yeah.
you're a heat-seeking missile focused on talent. I need someone who
Yeah.
can do this job with these skills. The last thing you
Okay.
care about is, you know, if Achilles is spending $100 on LinkedIn, that's his problem. Let's just focus on who can really do the job. So Achilles, I've got a better idea. Save the money you would have spent on LinkedIn Premium and instead invest in the University of Manitoba. Pay it forward to the next generation. That is a way higher ROI. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Thanks.
Great question. Okay, I think we've come to the end of our session, Rosalind, because I know we're at time. I think we're at the end of the questions as well. Rosalind, any final words of wisdom that you want to share with our amazing alums?
Well, I just want to thank you, for the little plug for the fundraising piece, because that's always helpful, and for such an engaging and informative session. I know myself, I got a couple takeaways. I got to go work on my headline, and I got to go click on that open to work thing at some point in time. Not today, I'm still loving it.
Oh yeah.
But I appreciate everybody like Rick and Jed and for your vulnerability and raising up your hand and allowing us all to learn from your experiences. So thank you for that. And thank you everybody for coming today. And as I said earlier, homecoming is just kicking off. I'm going to post that little link in the chat so you can see the rest of all of our programming. Please sign up and come get involved. We'd love to see you. So thank you very much for today, and we will see you again soon.
Good luck, everyone. Enjoy homecoming.